Hi, everybody. It's Mr. Gray here. Thank you again for just a fantastic week, the first full week of school this week, and we already got a little respite next week. So there is no school on Monday at all for the Labor Day holiday. Don't send your kids to school. No one will be here. Next week, also, the schedule is a little different in another way. We have back to school night on Thursday. That means dismissal is at 1:05 on Thursday. So the kids will come back from lunch and then pretty much get dismissed right away at 1:05. Back to school night itself is from 6 to 6:35 p.m. As you can imagine, I have a tremendous amount of information for you. I will try to pack in as much as I can that is useful and helpful for you that night. It really is helpful for you to be there and just to say hi to you for 1 minute. We do not get a lot of time and it's mostly me talking, but it is nice to have you come and sit in our classroom, look around, see what's going on. I think that will give you a really great picture of what is happening to our class and inside our class. Two other big announcements. We have a couple fun things I hope coming up. The first one is we're going to just do some in-class dress up days throughout the year. They're just something random and fun. The kids don't get anything for doing it. It's simply a fun thing to do all together as a class. And so there's a lot of leeway with it. But by no means any requirement. But our first one is going to be Friday, September 13th, and that's just going to be Fancy Friday. So I will wear a suit and tie. The kids can dress up, and that means a lot of different things. And again, this is purely for fun. But I think, the more people that dress up that day, the kids will really enjoy it and have a really good time. So Friday, September 13th, Fancy Friday. The other fun activity coming up is, I think by the end of next week, we're going to finish the book, The Wild Robot, that I've been reading out loud and we've been discussing for the last week and now this week and next week. So for the first 3 weeks of school, I was reading it out loud. Well, it turns out that the movie version of The Wild Robot is coming out in theaters later in September. So I'm going to try to find a time, probably on a weekend, where a theater is showing The Wild Robot, and I'm just gonna send out an invite and say, if you can get tickets for the show on this day, please come. I'll be there, and any students that want to come can be there as well. So that is kind of to be determined, but I think the movie comes out September 20th. So if not that weekend, maybe like the 21st, it'd probably be the next weekend, September 28th. So somewhere in there, maybe the 28th if it's a little less busy. So just keep that in the back of your mind, but also not an invite to that. That should be really fun. As far as academics go, in reading this week, we've just been getting ourselves ready to do the work of readers, and we've been kind of focusing on a few things. So the kids chose their own realistic fiction book, and they're doing some analysis of it. And I'm giving the example of a book called Fly Away Home. If you haven't asked your kids or heard about that, it was a fantastic book. It's really short, but there's a lot that is in there that makes it really tugs at your heartstrings and is a really fantastic book. So the kids have been focusing on a few things. First, we're trying to make stronger predictions, not simple predictions, like I think the character is going to get out of this problem, but I'm making a little bit more of an informed prediction on how something happens. The second one is trying to just capture their thinking. What are they thinking about the characters? And trying to write that down in an organized way so you can share that. And then the last one is digging deeper by asking questions. So a great way to analyze is to make sure you make yourself ask questions, hard questions, to the characters, to the author, and then try to answer those the best you can in a way where you're kind of exploring your own thinking. So next week, we're going to take those things we've been practicing this week, and the kids are going to visualize that thinking, doing something called a reader's notebook page. So that'll be a really great thing for them to see. Also next week, they're going to take the STAR reading test, which everyone takes in the district. Like I said, we're reading out loud The Wild Robot. I probably will finish next week, and then hopefully that movie day will be coming up soon. In writing, the kids were working on a true story. They had to write a true story, a narrative that might have a little bit of fiction in it, because I also added the extra challenge as they had to include a random item. So I picked a random item that they had to include somewhere. So there might be a little bit of fiction in their true story, but that's just for fun. And they've been working on different parts of it. They were trying to plan out their story by doing some rehearsal and some touching their paper, what's going to happen first, what's going to happen next. Then they're working on revising in specific ways. We were trying to make characters more three-dimensional by adding small details and quirks. they were trying to be their own job captain where they're doing the revising, picking out what should I revise. It's not only up to me or their writing partner, but what do I need to do to make it better, with this larger idea of that revision is really important. It's really hard to write a good story, and I have to go over it and over it and over it and try new things. And I'm never quite satisfied simply because I wrote something down. So they're going to finish up that story and actually publish it. It'll be up on the wall ready for you to look at back to school night when you are here. For math next week, we have a really short week, and so we only have a couple math slots, and so we're going to review some of the work we did last week, including the 4-4s challenge, and then they're going to take a district math pre-assessment that all the fifth graders in Irvine take. In social studies, we're working on our first chapter of social studies, which is all about the Native Americans pre-Columbus, so 1491 and backwards. And so specifically next week, we're going to use the textbook and kind of build up our background knowledge. Typically in social studies, we'll start out with the textbook and we'll try to get through it really quick and have some discussions and answer some questions and really kind of build up that background knowledge for what's going on before we get onto some projects. And so they're specifically going to look at Native American culture, religion, and folk tales next week. The kids will go to science lab with Mr. Marco. We haven't started our in-class science yet. We're doing some more grammar study that has to do with the structure of sentences. We'll do buddies next week. The kids will have art with Mr. Shackelford, and we'll have a digital citizenship lesson. And there's even more, if you can believe it. So it should be another great week. No school on Monday. I hope to see you at back to school night on Thursday. It's early dismissal that day, and back to school night is from 6 to 6:35. It's going to be jam-packed for that 35 minutes. I hope to see you there. All right. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Bye-bye.